Welcome to Spokane Talks, where you find news, views, and conversation that includes respect for opinions, facts, and diversity. Spokane Talks is brought to you in part by McNeice Wheeler Attorneys, River Ridge Hardware, and Rana Paint.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Spokane Talks, where you'll find news, views, and conversation. Coming up, Tim Mitrovich, CEO of 10 Capital Wealth Advisors and host of the podcast Pulling Back the Curtain, sits down with me on Business Talks to discuss the current economic market environment and the role of the investment advisor.
Hey, you do know what you believe and you do know what you want, but we need to speak those out and actually go through an exercise, then build a plan to make that happen.
Then, Stephanie Regalado discusses Women in Business Leadership Awards with Cindy Donahue, as well as Cindy's role as Membership Director at the Spokane Club, finding love a second time around and creating and contributing to a stronger sisterhood in our lives and communities.
As soon as you get to know someone and know what's important to them, you want to help. And I think that comes from people. They want to help.
Then, Jane Baker, host of Library Out Loud, talks to Rob Kennedy from Rogue Heart Media and Stacey Goddard. Join them as they discuss SCORE mentors in Spokane and how they're covering topics like marketing and writing a business plan offered at various Spokane County Library District locations.
How advertising and those things all connect, but maybe, what the right balance would be for their business.
See you tomorrow night, and thanks again for taking care of the painting.
I got this.
Bye.
Weekends are made for painting. Let the experts at Rana Paint take care of you.
Hi. This looks amazing.
Rana Paint, over 80 years of quality, tradition, and trust. Find it in every can.
Welcome to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNeice, and we're here in the studio with Tim Mitrovich, CEO of 10 Capital Wealth Advisors. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
The age-old question when you're talking about financial planning, financial advisors, wealth managers, is I think the folks coming to you are, I either know what I'm talking about or I think I know what I'm talking about. Why do I need an advisor?
Well, I'll start with why you don't need one. You don't need one for access to a product. I think a lot of people still think, I have this magical fund or insurance product, or that isn't why. And I think that's where you've seen the E-Trades and stuff creep up. Where you do need one is someone who can help be that objective partner for you. We've talked about internally, based off the experience of one of my colleagues who was down at the Masters listening to a pro say to his caddy, do not let me hit this club if I'm here from this distance.
Please don't let me do this.
He knew what he could or couldn't hit. He was an expert at his craft.
Right.
That wasn't the issue. But again, there was a recognition there that in the pressure of the moment, when maybe whoever you're paired up with hit this great shot and you want to match it, there's going to be some counterproductive impulse there that it's just human nature that they may not be able to avoid. And that's certainly the case, again, literally, this is physiologically, the same part of your brain that freaks out when you're in mortal danger. Think a shark fin popping up freaks out like in December when the market's tanking. Without a lot of discipline, without a third-party partner, without the why should I stay the course behind it other than just because you should, it's going to be hard to do those productive activities that, again, we all know how to pair it, but get tough in the moment.
Well, I think, Tim, that's how you've differentiated 10 Capital as a firm, is not necessarily knowing how you're just going to guide somebody cookie cutter style into particular proprietary investments, but rather figuring out what their needs are and picking and choosing what's best for them.
Yeah, whether you look at the events we do, the website where all of our commentaries get uploaded to, LinkedIn, Instagram, it's all about helping people and just trusting that, it'll get appreciated and come back around.
Well, let's take a short little break and come right back talking to Tim Mitrovich.
This is River Ridge Frame Shop, called Frame It Today, where we can take your art, customize it, and get it ready to hang on the wall. here at River Ridge Hardware, 2803 West Garland.
Welcome back. We were just discussing with Tim Mitrovich the role of the investment advisor, and we all come to the table with different goals. How do you deal with that as you engage with new clients in terms of what they're wanting out of their relationship with a financial advisor?
Yeah, I think earlier in my career, how I was taught, still what I see, a lot of people come in, and I'm going to tell you at some point, directly or indirectly, this again, by the way, is not what I do. I'm talking about the general advisor, right. How smart I am, this great product I have, this amazing fund manager we get to work with. It's all selling a product, selling access. We don't. I mean, by the time we get to an investment or insurance discussion, that's literally meeting 3. First thing we want to do, who are you? What do you value? Our first meeting doesn't even use numbers. And I can tell you we've dealt with a second, the spouse who doesn't want to come in, gets drug in by the other one, the guy who thinks this all sounds kind of fluffy, I don't want to do. Yeah, hands down, every single person who's gone through it has loved it. We've turned the most cynical person into a believer, just in the sense that we all want to be heard. That's a common characteristic. So we just start there and really making people tangibly, so even a little like card exercise, what do you value? Then we map a plan.
Because it could be high growth. It could be, you know what, I just want consistency.
It literally will start down to, you want to make work optional, or do you want to send your kids and pay for all their college? Because the timing of those two things, if you want to pay all your kids' college tuition, you may not get to retire when you're 60.
Right. Again, the equation.
And I'm not here to tell you what you value, but I need to help you call that out, not in the recesses of your mind. People are like, well, I think I know what I want. To me, it's the same. We've all had that good idea that was, in fact, maybe good, but we had never shared it with anyone. And the first time we went to articulate it, it doesn't come out as clear.
Right.
That's all this is, hey, yeah, you do know what you believe and you do know what you want, but we need to speak those out and actually go through an exercise, then build a plan to make that happen. That's going to tell us what we need to put into the plan.
Well, if you want this, then you're going to have to do this to make the equation square.
And what types of vehicles could we use? What kinds of things? Again, being objective with no proprietary, financial incentive to pick this versus that, which again is unique in the industry, then to bring to bear, right? But the industry starts here. They start with their product that they have to sell, and they may get to this point. And the reason, quite simply, is this is the way to make the most money.
Right.
Hurry up and sell something, get on to the next person. Taking the time to get to know people, walk through that, invest all that time up front before you even know if they're going to be a client, and do whatever you want. That's a chance, but it's who we want to be, and it's going to tell us who's going to be the best fit for our firm and help us do good work.
Tim, you've added value for clients, and you're doing a great job in the community. Thanks for joining us. We'll have you back here again.
Appreciate it. Next up, Stephanie Regalado sits down with Cindy Donahue and talks about the Women in Business Leadership Awards.
See you tomorrow night, and thanks again for taking care of the painting.
I got this.
Bye.
Weekends are made for painting. Let the experts at Rada Paint take care of you.
Hi. This looks amazing.
Rada Paint, over 80 years of quality, tradition, and trust. Find it in every can.
Hello, welcome to She Says. I'm Stephanie Regalado, your host. My guest today is Cindy Donahue. Welcome.
Thank you.
You are the membership director at the Spokane Club, and there's been kind of this resurgence with the club that's been exciting.
Yeah.
A lot of families, you said the scope of members is newborn to...
Yeah, the scope of who we have at the club, but also the resurgence of connecting our business community, women in leadership, families. We have great booty bar classes and yoga. So there's just so many, the breadth of things we have available, like tennis and basketball. It's pretty cool.
Well, it makes sense, because why go out into other places to find these things when you have an amazing facility?
Yes.
And you can bring it in and do really whatever you want to do in that.
Yeah.
So with the women's business our women leadership group that has been super successful.
It has.
Instantly out of the chute.
Yes, just bringing women together, having an interesting speaker, something thought-provoking, and having everyone come together. It's been a really great experience, both in the club and our leadership group and also in our city. So
yes, and part of that reason is why you were recently named one of the Women in Business Leadership Award winners.
Thank you.
By my magazine, Spokane Quarterly Living. So congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
And I am super excited about this. For the first time in years and years and years, we are doing 2 covers.
Are you really?
Yes, we're doing both groups instead of just choosing one.
Oh, fun. It was so great to meet everyone and to have that experience together. I mean, it's been nothing but fun and excitement. And
well, definitely so well earned and deserved. And really the whole thing isn't about the 20 of you, but it's about all women in our community, all women working to support one another and understanding that every woman's success is every other woman's success.
And you can really feel that. I mean, you can really feel that sense of excitement and the momentum building for women in our city. It's very cool to be part of that.
Yes. And your background is in yoga.
It is.
You've been a yoga instructor for 8 years
About 10 years.
Or 10 years.
Yeah.
Wow,
so I've been trying to, I still teach yoga and special
Yes.
events, but I also try to apply those ideas of yoga and being present in my life and in business.
Yes. What are 2 of the principles that you think translate best into all areas of life from yoga?
So I would say being present in your body, so connecting your mind and your body, so thinking about how you're positioned and where your mind is, and then the idea of remindfulness, so reminding yourself, am I being present? In any way that works for you. Lots of people have different ways of doing that, but I think being present makes you happier in your life, makes you actually experience what you're doing.
Well, exactly, because you're not always looking forward. We often are looking forward to so many things that we have, and we're scrambling to get there, but really what each of us has is only this very moment.
This moment right here, it's a good one.
Yeah, it's a very good one. Well, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
The following is sponsored by our friends and community supporters at McNeice Wheeler Attorneys. McNeice Wheeler is a boutique law firm in Spokane, handling matters in both Washington and Idaho. Areas of law include business law, wills, trusts and estates, family law, personal injury and wrongful death, and real estate matters. For your full-service legal needs, contact McNeice Wheeler Attorneys.
Welcome back to She Says. I'm Stephanie Regalado, your host, Cindy Donahue. So we were just talking about the busyness of our minds.
And the monkey mind.
The monkey mind. Yes. But busy caught me because we often say we're busy, but sometimes that gives the impression to others that we don't have time for them.
Correct.
We're too busy for them because anyone who wants to spend time with someone will find time, no matter what their schedule is. However, there's being a shift, and you have a friend.
My friend Erin Haskell-Gord, she said that to me one time. We sat down to have tea, and I said, "You must be so busy." She said, "I don't like busy. I like to say my schedule is full because I want to don't want to give the impression I don't have time." And I've been thinking a lot about that, in terms of yoga and in terms of life, and just that we all have the same amount of time available.
Right.
And so saying your schedule is full, you think, well, how am I going to fill my time? How full is my schedule?
Right.
Should I maybe not
Right. It
be
helps
so full?
in many different ways. It helps it just as a more respectful sounding way to share. Plus, it also helps you really wrap your mind around the time that you have in a day.
Yes.
And how you are filling it.
It's just a shift. So for me, it gave me her saying that gave me that mental shift, and I've really been thinking a lot about that.
Because sometimes I look at my calendar and there's nothing there, but my head is not allowing anything on it. So it really is. But whether it's my calendar that's full or my head is full is much better than
full.
This is a much better way.
Yes.
And kind of words shape everything in our lives. Yeah. So that's very important. Back to the connectivity part before we run out of time. Being a connector, as you are in your role, and even the Women in Business Leadership Awards and how those women are all connected in so many ways. Yeah. How is all this connectivity shaping our community, do you feel?
I think that all the points of connection that we have through women in different groups and different entities, I think it's helping our community through charitable causes because we all come together. Friends all want to help friends. And as soon as you get to know someone and know what's important to them, you want to help. Yeah. And I think that comes from people. They want to help. And so when we had a Project Beauty Share event through the club of gathering goods for people that needed them, people kept bringing things later because they have that want to give.
Right.
So I think.
Well, and I've said a few times that there's no such thing as a hero until people know how to step up into that role.
Right.
So really it's those connections and offering the need to others.
The opportunity.
People rise right into those spaces. Well, thank you so much for all you're doing in the community and for being such a light. I adore you.
I adore you too. Thank you for having me.
Next up on Library Out Loud, Rob Kennedy of Rogue Heart Media will discuss the resources available in business planning and marketing at the Spokane County Library District.
This is River Ridge Frame Shop, called Frame It Today, where we can take your art, customize it, and get it ready to hang on the wall. Here at River Ridge Hardware, 2803 West Garland.
The following is sponsored by our friends and community supporters at McNeice Wheeler Attorneys. McNeice Wheeler is a boutique law firm in Spokane, handling matters in both Washington and Idaho. Areas of law include business law, wills, trusts and estates, family law, personal injury and wrongful death, and real estate matters. For your full-service legal needs, contact McNeice Wheeler Attorneys.
Hello and welcome to Library Out Loud. I'm Jane Baker with the Spokane County Library District. Joining me today on the program is Stacey Goddard. Stacey Goddard is a public services manager at the Library District, specializing in businesses. True. And also with us today is Rob Kennedy with Rogue Heart Media and also a SCORE mentor. And you are helping present some of our business workshops this winter and spring at the library. Thank you both for being here today. First, let's start with you, Stacey. Sure. Let's talk a little bit about business things at the library. People are well aware that, of course, we have books and we have story time and great programs for kids and adults, but we also have a lot of resources for businesses. Talk about that a little bit, please.
Sure. Yeah, one of the things that makes me the saddest is when we're at a community event and adults tell me that they don't use the library because their kids are grown, and especially if it's a business event, and I just think, oh no, they're leaving things on the table because we have a variety of resources that they could be using that their tax dollars are paying for already that could help them identify a potential new location to expand their business, identify targeted mailing lists for potential clients. They could look at their competition and size up their market share, the money that's out there waiting to be spent on their product. So things like Demographics Now, Reference USA. We also have a great resource called ProQuest, which has access to trade and industry journals. So if you're looking to get into a business and you're not really sure, or you've done some math and you think, I think there's going to be a 20% profit margin in this, one of the journals that you can access in ProQuest is called First Research Industry Profiles, and it will tell you the expected profit margin for this is 6%. And these are journals that the banks and other lenders have access to, so you can be sure that they're going to be checking the math on that.
Absolutely.
And when we're working with individuals who are interested in that and they still don't believe like this is really the bottom line, that's when we will send them to SCORE to talk to a mentor there who's an industry expert and can say, yes, in this restaurant business, the margin isn't 20%. You're not going to make this much money.
Yeah.
So it's good that we have that resource here in town.
And speaking of a SCORE expert, we have one here with Rob. Rob, talk a little bit about going from being a mentee to a mentor.
Yeah, my introduction to SCORE was in 2008 when we went to start our first business. So I was actually a mentee, went through the workshops, had one-on-one counseling. And after our business started growing, just felt like it was time for me to get back and get involved in the community, and SCORE just felt like a natural place. So since 2013, I believe, I've been volunteering there, leading workshops.
Perfect. Well, speaking of workshops, there's some coming up at the library. We're going to take a quick break and come back and talk more about those here on Library Out Loud. And welcome back to Library Out Loud. Jane Baker here, speaking with Rob Kennedy and Stacey Goddard about the business programs at the Spokane County Library. We have 3 workshops coming up still this winter, spring, and they're very exciting. Rob, can you tell us about the first one that's coming up?
Yeah, the first one is the marketing, advertising, and sales, connections and differences. And in that one, we really just dive into a lot of people kind of conflate all 3 of those terms and just use them interchangeably, and just kind of demystifying that a little bit. A lot of the people that we mentor through SCORE, are maybe passionate about what they do, but sales is kind of a unique skill, and some people think maybe they can't start their business because they're not a salesperson, and we just demystify some of that, show what marketing is and how advertising and those things all connect, but maybe what the right balance would be for their business.
That'll be some great information. And that workshop is coming up at the Deer Park Library on Thursday, March 14th from 12:30 until 1:30. So if you're in the area, maybe you want to take off for your lunch hour, bring your lunch in and sit through the program and get a lot of great information. The second one coming up is a repeat workshop that we've had.
That's our How to Write a Business Plan workshop, which is really popular. It's just something we're probably going to keep doing. And just really, whether it's a business that's looking for funding and needs that traditional business plan, or if it's just somebody starting a business that kind of wants to develop that roadmap. There's a couple different resources and tools that we can use to create a business plan. We very much focus on it being a living document that makes sure people are coming back and checking, and how to make it part of the day-to-day operation, and so it doesn't just get shoved in a drawer and ignored. So.
Fabulous. And that one's coming up Cheney Library on Thursday, April 11th, again, 12:30 to 1:30 during that lunch hour. And then there's one more.
The last one is Marketing Plans for Entrepreneurs, which is going to be led by Josh King. And that one is just really looking at businesses that aren't following maybe a traditional plan. It's not an established industry, just kind of testing the waters. It's really set up to be nimble, agile, and pivot, looking at feasibility studies and things of that nature. So another great workshop.
That's great. That one's coming up at Argonne on May 9th. And you can learn more about these at scld.org or pick up an Engage magazine.
Cindy Hval is a freelance columnist and correspondent for the Spokesman Review and author of War Bonds, Love Stories from the Greatest Generation. The view from her porch is usually sunny.
Some folks might think that an evening of wine and painting with friends sounds delightful. Not me, and I have Mrs. Pendergrast to thank for that. Mrs. Pendergrast was my second grade teacher. While my reading skills soared under her tutelage, my art skills plummeted. I dreaded art time more than I dreaded dodgeball during PE. I would think I had just the right amount of yellow on my brush for the sun, only to watch in dismay as golden globs smeared down the paper and smeared into my already crusty sleeves. "Oh, for Pete's sake," Mrs. P scolded. "Your son is bleeding all over the paper. Try again." Her comments inspired me, so I dipped my brush into the scarlet pot and painted a red sun, dripping drops of blood from the sky. "Good grief," she shouted. "What's wrong with you?" So you can see why my husband was surprised when I agreed to go when we were asked to go to Pino's Palace with friends. It was time to silence the shaming voice of Mrs. Pendergast. My painting might stink, but at least I'd have a glass of wine to ease the sting. I listened carefully to the instructor as she guided us through the steps to replicate a painting of the Northern Lights. Shades of doubt seeped in when I had trouble blending the swooshes of white into the night sky. But soon we were on to stippling stars, and my true talents emerged. "I am the best at stars," I announced. Of course, one glass of wine had turned into two by this point, but isn't that why they call it liquid courage? At the end of the evening, my evergreens were a bit wonky, And I hadn't mastered the art of blending, but by golly, my stars sparkled. I sat at the easel and lifted my glass in silent salute. Good night, Mrs. Pendergast, wherever you are. And that's the artistic view from my front porch.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Spokane Talks, where you find news, views, and conversation. We'll see you next week.
Spokane Talks is about you. Give us your feedback and comments at info@SpokaneTalksMedia.com. Spokane Talks is brought to you in part by McNeice Wheeler Attorneys, River Ridge Hardware, and Rada Paint. We'll be back next week with additional news, views, and conversations. Please join us. So long for now.